Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Liqian. She is the Director of Modern Alpha at WisdomTree to discuss a way to capitalize on the opportunities in China with less exposure to state-owned businesses. Liqian, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thank you, Jill.
Let's start with some background here. Tell us a bit about China's recent banking trouble.
Yeah, so there's really three different things. On social media, people have seen lots of videos of people protesting in front of banks at Henan County Bank. Those are very small county level banks. And then also there are lots of mainstream media news about homeowners threatening not to pay the mortgage. And of course, the third thread of news is China's real estate sector. The sales has not, bounced back after continued COVID restrictions and the Shanghai COVID wave. All three in some way is related, but not entirely, in the sense that the first case is much more social media driven. It's actually the money involved is not that significant. It's about $6 billion US. The second is more significant. It's closer to maybe like $200 billion. And third is much more uncertainty. How is China's real estate sector going to be able to gradually work off its supply, and how that's impacting China's banking? I think a lot of the China debt bond headlines are overblown. China's banking sector, indeed, because the economy is in a slower growth mode right now. So China's banking sector, there are about 4,000 banks, and even PBOC, central bank itself, says there are about 360 banks that's in the high risk. So we are going to see some smaller China banks getting into headlines much more, but it's not necessarily a whole Lehman Brothers or whole banking crisis.
How might the October Party Congress impact China's economy?
Yeah, so for people who are not familiar, this year in China is almost like the presidential election in the US, except all politics is played behind the scenes. Of course, some of the behind themes will spill over, into public, but you can kind of guess, what factions are getting some power, what faction, whose people are getting appointed. So in October, the party will have a Congress, and then President Xi will be shown whether he will get the third term, which is unusual because China has been going for the every 10-year, like every decade for one leader mode for a while, and President Xi will be breaking the routine, and this will very much, I think everybody, in China and outside China will be looking. Will he be, more the, going for more dictatorial kind of, governing style, or he is in this position because there's no newer leadership that has been identified. Will this be a transition? So this, how this comes out, is definitely going to impact China's economy, because his ideas are still going to dominate. And his ideas, I think it's been, in the last couple of years, been very clear that he wants to transition China into a more kind of a quality growth mode. He's not a big fan of speculative housing market, which he believes that that's making a lot of Chinese middle class too expensive to afford to have babies, and the demography issue in China is also somewhat serious. So many of his ideas if he got the third term, it's going to continue. His views on the market, his many areas of China, and COVID zero, the biggest constraining order on China right now is on domestic consumption, and he is a proponent of COVID zero for now. And after the party Congress, does he and his inner circle see some possible changes that could make China's back to the trend growth. So all these is extremely significant. Essentially, will be deciding the next 5 years how China's economic policy is going to play out.
Yeah, and to your point, not just local to China, but of course, global implications in terms of what happens with the October party. So what is the biggest risk, in your opinion, to China's economy right now?
I think right now is still how China transitions to the COVID situation. Now here in the U.S., based in the U.S., I think the COVID's impact on the economy has been significantly less. Even with this newer variant, COVID newer variant, the cases are going up. But I think people have mentally prepared to live with COVID. China has not yet get to that stage yet. I am personally is on the optimistic side. I think a lot of people here probably the speed will be lower than people hoping here. People here hoping China could open faster. But I think the speed is not going to be as fast. But I am on the slightly more positive side, because you can see that China is making very, very gradual but very baby steps, such as China did have a vaccine drive in the last 3 months. That was very quiet, not much media reports, but the old age vaccination rate used to be very low, 50%. Now it's closer to 90%. For bigger cities like Beijing and Shanghai, it's still at 70%. But through a lot of, some of them is coercive tactics. Some of it is really deep persuasion. China is doing something, trying to prepare itself for eventual, I think, living with. But the process will be, will be volatile, and also will be very, very slow.
Yeah. So Liqian, let's talk about a ticker by WisdomTree, CSXE. That's where there's exposure to Chinese opportunity, but doesn't have state-owned banks within the portfolio. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I think before I joined the WisdomTree, I didn't realize there was such a product that already exists. But in my own life story, is very fitting, because I grew up in Zhejiang, which is where Alibaba is headquartered. It's also where China's private business, Zhejiang province, is actually also politically is also going to be important. Happened to be President Xi's a big part of President Xi's career spent in two provinces, Fujian, where he got his start, and Zhejiang, where he really, through that period, he ascended. Actually, if you're looking the kind of people who are being appointed now, before the Party Congress, a significant number of people who are getting these high positions are President Xi's, old acquaintances or people he has worked with from Zhejiang and Fujian area. So Zhejiang was last year. I'm sure you have talked to many people about the common prosperity, right? It was all the rage last year. And actually, common prosperity was supposed to be experimented in Zhejiang first. And I think part of it is because President Xi is very familiar with Zhejiang through his years as a party secretary in Zhejiang. So, short words, the ETF that we aim to capture is really the most vibrant part of China's economy. It's the private business. China will not be, we won't even be talking about China if not for the 60% or 70% of China's economy, which is now a private business. Even if you look at China's, not the main board, the main board is Shanghai and Shenzhen Stock Exchange. The secondary board, like a technology stock board, even there, that's the hard tech companies that the government was hoping that it could propel China into next stage of growth. Even there, significant majority of companies are private. So, 30, 40 years ago, China's private, the percentage of people working in private sector, the private economy is, less than 10 or 20%. So this is really a significant change. This is why people are paying attention to China now because it has made the private sector a very big one, and our strategy, CXSE, is hoping to capture that. Now, obviously, CXSE, because it's a private economy dominated, it will underweight banking sector, banks, though most of them are state-owned, and also energy, which is still very, very much government-owned.
Yeah. All right. Liqian, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you.